Life Academy would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we record this podcast on.
Trigger warning for this episode, we discuss adult themes, body image, diet culture, and it contains some coarse language, so please be aware if you have little ears around.
Hello and welcome to Life Academy.
I'm your host, Dena Amy Kaplan.
And I'm your host, Alicia Bennett.
Welcome to your weekly dose of questionable life lessons from on-screen frenemies
To real life besties.
How you going, bestie?
Oh, I'm so good, babe. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I am good. I'm just so busy.
Yeah.
That I'm struggling to find balance at the moment. I think I've said this the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
I still haven't found the balance.
Yes.
Trying to run 3 businesses, be a mother, and still what I realize about myself is I'm a bit of a self-care queen.
Uh-huh.
And I'm missing that element at the moment. I'm not having time to get to the gym, and I'm not having time to go for my hot girl walks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not having time to cook and meal prep.
Yeah.
Because I'm so busy between the retreats and the podcast and studies and motherhood. It's just been non-stop. And what's getting sacrificed is the exercise and the walks and just those my saunas, you know, all my
Just
self-care.
your self-care stuff.
I'm a self-care queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a bit not burnt
sorry,
out,
babe.
just
On your way to potential burnout.
Yeah, this is not sustainable.
So maybe let's take a moment to just actually think, moving forward, let's bring the self-care back in, because you don't want to get to the burnout.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm always like this with my mental health. I'm it's coming, something's, I always have this impending doom feeling.
Let's schedule it in some self-care time so that the mental health can stay tip top.
Yeah, I really need to. I got offered to go, I got an influencer offer to go to this retreat this weekend.
Gosh.
At Gwingana in Queensland, which is the most beautiful health retreat. And they were we'll pay for your flights and accommodation and everything and spa experiences, all of it. But they gave me the invite yesterday and I'd have to fly out tomorrow. And Alex and I have plans for the whole weekend. It's my auntie's birthday, all this stuff.
And you're a mother too.
And I'm what am I going to do with my 3? So anyway, I was that would have been really nice. But I also don't even know if I have the energy in me to travel again, because we just
traveled. Yeah.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My house at the moment is a work site again, which is feeling super good.
Love that.
From my end.
We love it.
We love a work site. Yeah, no, it was away on the trip. I believed I was going to be coming back to brand new flooring, which was really exciting. And instead I came back to a full house reno. So I'm very excited for it to be completed. It's going to be beautiful.
In 2070.
Yeah, that's it just feels like it's so far away. So been staying at my parents' place, and I feel bad that we're taking up their space. So it's been good. I'm excited. But yeah, it's renos are stressful.
So stressful.
And
just not being able to put your clothes away and nest. I know how long you've been wanting to
dying to just unpack my bags and not have to do anything apart from just clean up my normal house. This is I'm cleaning up dust and dirt and mud and grime and plaster and things from the roof. And I'm
it's a no from me, dog.
It is also a no from me. So, but as I said, at the same time, there is the excitement that it's going to be worth it. It's just I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah.
So, boyfriend is a doer. I'm a thinker.
He's also a surpriser.
He's a surpriser. We did have a FaceTime, and he was like, "Hey, can I cut this wall out while I'm doing the floor?" And I was like, well, he's like, no, because we're going to do it eventually anyway, so I may as well do it because the floor's done now, and if as long as the floor's not brand new and we can put it over the top. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, fine, cut the wall out, go for it. And he's like, okay, good, because there was already holes in it. I'd already started. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So lucky I said yes. But
lucky you have patience in abundance. If I there's anyone with patience that I know, it is you, my love.
I'm the patience queen. It's been a journey, and I'm here, and I am a patient gal.
And it was so lovely to spend some time with you and Isla in Sydney.
It was very
And I just
special.
love seeing you in mum mode. And even with Isla, you're so patient. And it's just, I always say you're such a beautiful mother, and it's so beautiful to witness. It was so nice to have a girls' trip together.
It was very special. I
Little
love
girl worky trip.
Yeah.
So nostalgic.
Speaking of girls.
We are so excited, you guys. We have a very, very special guest here today who I am like a fangirl of.
I'm really very excited for this
I got you
conversation
onto the train.
today. You got me onto it hardcore, and I'm like shaking and excited with all this anticipation to get like the answers to all of the things.
All of our questions. Help us raise our girls. So I recommended on the body image episode, I recommended a book called Raising Girls Who Like Themselves by Kasey Edwards. We happen to have the Kasey Edwards in studio today. Welcome.
Thank you for coming on.
It is so good to be here to talk to you. You are both iconic, and it is such an honor to be invited on your podcast. So thank you for having me.
Oh, please.
Thank you for being here,
honor
Kasey.
is ours. We are so, so grateful that you came in to talk to us. And yeah, we've got some burning questions because
Hit
we are.
me up.
First, I just want to tell our audience a little bit about you. You are a researcher and an author. You've written just casually 10 books, one of which is my favorite, Raising Girls Who Like Themselves. I have learned a lot from this book, and I've really tried to implement it into my life. And I have sent it to every single person I know, including my family, my parents, my in-laws, everyone. I'm like, you guys, this is the blueprint. We got to do it like this. So we'd love to talk about that book today, if that's cool with you.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you have shared it with your parenting team, because everything in the book is evidence-based, right?
Nice.
So I co-wrote it with my husband, Dr. Christopher Scanlon, but nothing is I reckon. We didn't make up anything. Everything is based in evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so when everyone in your parenting crew is on the same page, it is so powerful.
Yep.
And so my girls are now 11 and 16. And I was reflecting just on my way here that all that stuff in the book, like I knew it worked because it's based on studies. But now I'm seeing every day that it really does. You know,
Wow,
it blows
that's so
my
nice
mind
to
when
hear.
we're seeing girls who are struggling, and I see my girls who are so secure in a way that I so wish that I was when I was that age.
Same.
So the framework and the parenting tweaks in the book work if they're applied consistently from your parenting crew.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And that's the thing is they're tweaks, and it's the small things, isn't it, that make such massive
That's
changes.
right, because so Chris and I, we're busy parents too. We both work. We have no family support. And when our first daughter was born, Violet, we read the parenting books, and most of them just made us feel really bad because it seemed like such a big ask to do the things you were supposed to do to be a good parent. So we decided that everything in our book is something that we have done in our own busy, chaotic, complicated, imperfect family. And the good news is you don't have to get it right all the time. You don't have to have really big moments. It doesn't have to be really expensive. They're really just everyday little parenting tweaks that lay a foundation for girls and boys to grow up knowing who they are and liking who that person is.
Yeah, beautiful. We recently did an episode on body image, and a lot of it we spoke about our lack of self-worth growing up and the fact that we didn't know how beautiful we were and we didn't feel it, and it was really kind of sad to listen
a
to.
bit sad, but eye-opening as well. I think really having those conversations and realizing like, oh shit, like
Yep.
there's so much that could have been different.
Could have been different, and that we both said we want to do differently for our girls. So I'd love to start there in terms of raising girls who like themselves when it comes to not identifying so much with what they look like, and how do we change our language at home? What can we do at home so that it's not all about what they look like?
Yep. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is I listened to your body image episode and I felt so sad for both of you, but also for all of us, right? Because it is the world that we as girls grow up in, and our little girls are growing up in that world too. But one really important lesson that everyone can take from listening to that episode, so if you haven't, everyone go back and listen to it. What you can take from that is you two, at the peak of your youth and your athleticism, were the ultimate in beauty. You were what every girl wanted to be, but you still weren't enough, right?
Yeah.
And so what that shows is there's no such thing as being beautiful enough in today's society.
Yeah.
And
so
that is
true.
a myth that we have to shatter. Because what happens is people have this idea that if we convince our girls that they're beautiful enough against all odds, or if we change ourselves, whether we put our child on a diet or we change the way they look, the way they dress, or do that to ourselves, we will somehow reach this magical place of enoughness, and then we will like ourselves.
Yeah.
But there is no such place. In our society, nobody is beautiful enough, right? So once we understand that, we need to look at how we're raising our girls. We are often told, and this is actually part of the problem, that the way you raise a girl to like herself is tell her over and over again that she's beautiful, and then one day she'll believe it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right? So that was done to all of us, right? How many times has Dove told us that we're all beautiful, right?
Yeah. Oh,
It
gosh.
doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because when you tell a girl over and over again that she is beautiful, and it is true, most girls will have more comments about their beauty than everything else combined about them. They will naturally grow up believing that their beauty is the most important thing about them, that it
Yes.
defines their worth in the world, and it's what everyone cares about. And then we send them out into a world where they can never be beautiful enough.
No.
So we have absolutely set them up to fail.
I got
Yeah.
goosebumps.
And I see the difference. My sister has 2 boys, and they, it's just so fascinating watching them. It's just like, oh, he kicked 2 goals and he did so great at soccer today, and he's loving footy, and you should see his drawings and his art and his creativity. Like, no one talks about how cute they are, how gorgeous they are, which they are, by the way, like, obviously, but it's just so different. And I noticed with Maya already, oh my God, you look so cute. You're so beautiful. God, she's going to be gorgeous, all this stuff. And I'm like, it's so different. It's so different the way we're treating boys and girls.
That's right. And so, as you say, little boys are gorgeous too, but we can still treat them like people, right? Whereas little girls, we treat them like dolls.
Yeah.
And so the thing about beauty is that beauty is an external measure, right? It's something that someone else decides about you. They bestow beauty on you and then they take it away. And I felt really sad, Dena, when you said that the first comment that you saw about Dance Academy was someone saying that you were too fat to be a ballerina.
Yep.
Like, so some rando took your beauty away from you.
Absolutely.
When you were at the peak of beauty, right?
Yeah.
And so if you base your identity on an external measure, by definition, you will be insecure because you can't control it.
Yeah.
So what we need for our girls and for our boys and for ourselves is to build our identity on a firm foundation that we can control, that other people can't take away from us. Things like our character, their kindness, their creativity, their humor, their persistence. So then when the world does tell our girls that they're not beautiful enough, and they will, without a doubt,
Yes.
it won't hurt them so much because that's not what their identity is about.
They
You know,
have that self-worth key.
That's right. So, for example, if someone told me, you suck at chess, I was like, I don't care because it's not a pillar of my identity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to aim for.
And I
with
guess it's
beauty.
not such a high value, it doesn't hold this value. And if you like who you are as a person of integrity and kindness and, compassion, then the value of beauty is not what's most important, which is something I've learned now, but it's taken me 36 years to get here.
And
Yeah.
then as well, kind of going off the thought of that, implementing change with our daughters to start off with. If are we meant to cut out saying you're beautiful altogether? Do we ever say it?
Yeah.
Do we not say it at all?
Tell us what to do.
Okay. Yeah. I'll get to the strategy in a moment. Let me just quickly tell you about some mind-blowing research that Chris and I did.
Yep.
When we were researching Raising Girls, we searched and we searched and we searched for women who had a positive body image. And by that, I mean women who wouldn't let the number on the scale decide what kind of day they were going to have. Or they wouldn't ever think that they shouldn't go out because they were having a fat day. Or they wouldn't sit in a meeting looking at their thighs spreading out on the chair. You know, it didn't take up space in their head. So it didn't mean that they loved everything about their body. It just didn't matter that much to them. And so we found these women. So unicorns do exist. And they were quite different. Some of them were quite close to the definition of beauty. Others were not. They had different ages, different levels of education, but they all had one thing in common. They all grew up in families that did not care about beauty. So one woman said to me, I don't think my mum or dad ever told me I was beautiful.
Wow.
And it was, now if you grow up in a family that values beauty and you're not told you're beautiful, then that is a problem. But if you grow up in a family that doesn't care about beauty, then you don't learn it as something to value about yourself. So we have a rule in our family, which people think is really extreme, but now that my daughter's 16, I can see it's worked really well. We do not talk about how bodies look, good or bad. We don't talk about how someone's looking good for their age, how they've lost weight, how they've gained weight, nothing. We've only ever talked about what bodies do. Bodies are a utility. They're a vehicle to keep us alive and live the lives that we want to live rather than being objects. And as a result of that, my girls just have not self-objectified.
Amazing.
So they know we think they're beautiful. They do know that. But they also know we don't think it's important.
That's so brilliant. I grew up in a family that did value beauty, definitely. I come from a long line of ballerinas and performers. So there was such a high value on how people looked and really naming and sort of, I guess you could almost say monitoring, you know, people's body image. And it's something that I really hope ends with me. I don't want to continue this on with my daughter. I don't want this feeling for her of that people are policing and monitoring your body and your weight, whether you gain weight or, you know, lose weight, whatever. Like, I don't want to have those conversations. So I think I'm going to get on your bandwagon and ban it in my house too.
I find it interesting with my upbringing where I, as a teenager, and I spoke about this in our body image episode, where I didn't care about my weight as growing up. Like, I ate as much food as I possibly could. I had like little bits of like, oh, you know, don't necessarily like my tummy, don't necessarily like this, but it didn't consume my days, right, as you were saying. But I did, however, I grew up in a family where looks and beauty, they for sure were important, but I don't know how I turned out, I suppose. Obviously that came into my later years where I kind of decided like, oh, this is how I like my body instead of this. That was a later years thing in my 20s. But I did grow up in a family where like I was told I was beautiful and there was an importance on how you look. And I remember like my nan and my mum would never leave the house unless they had makeup on. But I, however, would leave the house in my trackies and no makeup, and like it didn't bother me. So I don't know what was the thing, I suppose, that would be different, because I want my daughter to feel the way that I did as a teenager, where I just didn't care necessarily about my appearance on such a big scale.
The fact that you were leaving the house in your trackies and not getting comments like, you're not leaving the house looking like that, are you, suggests that maybe you weren't being policed.
I did get.
Oh, you did? You just didn't care?
They just didn't care. Yeah, I was so all about like being comfy and like very, I was just like, whatever. Especially even when like Dance Academy came out and Mum was like, what if you get recognized by fans and they want photos? And I was like, oh, well, I'll just look like I'm a bum. Like it just did not bother me whatsoever. It's such a strange thing to me. And I don't know if I had, you know, I for sure remember being told by my parents, like, you are beautiful, but I also remember being told to, if I'd done well in school or in dancing or anything, there was not an importance on like achieving a certain thing. Kind of, it was just like, well, you tried your best and that was amazing, and so maybe that's where it came from, I guess.
That's a really important clue to all of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if they value trying your best, that is empowering, because that is something you can always control.
Mm-hmm.
So beauty you can't control, right?
Yeah.
And marks you can't control, and winning you can't control. But trying is something that you can control. And so that is empowering. So they did build your identity on something you can control.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting because with reading your book and trying to understand how I had so much confidence in my younger years, and like it's like piecing a puzzle together, trying to put together like, what did my parents do that was so right, or what did they do that could have been different, or because it's so scary raising a young girl in this world, and I just want her to love herself.
We just want to do it right,
and I see and it's already happening. Like, she looks at herself in front of a mirror and she loves herself, and I say like, oh, you're beautiful, darling, look at you. But I also try and say like, your smile, you look so happy, and it's those things that I want to focus on more than the beauty. But I see that she already loves, like when she puts a dress on, she loves how she looks in the dress. So it is she's already started on that train of like how I look.
And is that okay, Kasey? Like, what's the deal with that? With like, little girls who love wearing tutus and feeling like princesses, and maybe watching things on TV that are
So the body is a canvas, and what they're doing is creating art.
Yeah.
So I think if your daughter loves fashion, if she loves makeup, then that's great. Like, if it's child-led, if it's a creative expression, then that's wonderful.
Okay.
But forcing her into some dress that she doesn't want, or telling her that she's too fat for it, or whatever, or even that, which is also really toxic, that parents think they're helping. You're the most beautiful girl on the stage.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That whole competitive thing, that not only do you have to be beautiful, you've got to be more beautiful than everyone else on the planet.
The most beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So no, I mean, my girls loved dressing up. I think, my oldest daughter wore a princess dress to kinder for
that's
every single day she was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so our approach was not talk about beauty, was really extreme. But what we say, our advice is, if you're in a family that does talk about beauty, just dial down the beauty comments, and talk more about what your child can do.
Yes.
And so it's empowering them to seek out behaviors that they can replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also how you build self-motivation within a child. So if you praise them for trying hard, or doing something that was hard, or going out of their comfort zone, they're going to do that more, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you get the overachiever rather than the perfectionist.
Yeah, okay. I think that's an interesting point to make as well, because for me, I said this to you recently, Dena, I struggle making decisions. And I think I know why I struggle making decisions is that when I was younger, I think my parents were always like, oh, let me help you with that. Let me help you with that, with the intention of always just helping. But that then led to me being an adult who's kind of like, oh, do I need help making that decision? And so I find with my
that's
daughter,
really interesting.
She's very independent straight away. And if she wants to do something by herself, I really have to just like let her do it, because I want her to be able to make her own decisions way better than I can, without needing to think like, let me just call mum and see if I should buy this pair of shoes. Because that's what it has been for me. When I remember like any kind of outfit that I'm choosing, even now with the house, I'm like, let's see what everyone else thinks that we should do with the house. And I'm like, just make a decision, Alicia. Like, it's going to be fine. It's so ingrained. So that's...
So how do we empower our girls to make confident decisions themselves and have that autonomy?
So there's two things I want to talk about. The first one is one of the pillars because we identified 7 pillars that you need to instill in your girl if she's going to grow up liking herself.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, and so one of them was body confidence that we talked about. And that's the whole idea of you base your identity on something other than your beauty, right?
Yes.
But what you were talking about then, Alicia, was mastery and independence.
Yeah.
So this is what our parents actually got wrong. So with the very best of intentions, they were told that if you just tell your kid you're awesome and you do things for them so they don't struggle, then they're going to grow up with high self-esteem. That's not how self-esteem works, right? Self-esteem comes from mastery and independence, from knowing that you can do life.
Yeah. Esteemable acts.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And when we look at kids who the increased rates of anxiety, a lot of that is them fearing that they can't do life because they haven't done it.
Totally get
because
that.
we're jumping in to do things for them because we don't want them to struggle, right? The most optimistic people are not the ones who've never struggled. They're the ones who have struggled and have conquered their
resilience.
fears.
Yeah.
And so just an example of how mastery and independence works, and I got really wrong in the beginning with my first daughter.
That's really nice to hear, by the way, because I just want to say to everyone out there, like, if you have been parenting in a certain way that is not like this, it's not too late to change and to start. So it's really nice to hear you say, I got things wrong at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So there's hope for all of us.
Oh, for sure. Our brains are plastic. Isn't that great?
Yes.
And so going back to my motivation for writing Raising Girls Who Like Themselves was because I had a daughter and I wanted her to like herself more than I did when I was growing up. And I didn't know how to do that. So that's why Chris and I researched it for our own benefit. And at the age of 40, that was when I started liking myself. So if I can change things at 40, you can change things for your child if you want to change the way you're parenting now. Right?
Nice.
Okay.
So with Violet and mastery and independence, we didn't want to see her struggle, right? And there's so much pressure on mothers to create perfect childhoods, right?
Yeah.
But that is not our job. Our job is not to create a perfect childhood so our kids are never upset. Our job is to create well-functioning adults who don't need us, right? And so Violet would be in the playground, and anytime it was hard, she would complain and she'd get upset and she'd be frustrated, and I would rush over to my little girl and I'd pick her up and I'd put her on the climbing frame.
Thank God, it's me.
And I did it so much that she stopped even trying.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time she was standing at the climbing frame and she just put her arms up and looked at me, and I thought, my God, I have made her helpless.
Yes.
Right.
And then Chris and I were doing all of our research and we realized how self-esteem comes from doing. Like, you cannot give your child self-esteem. You can't buy it. You can't say it. You can't wrap it up.
True.
It only comes from within. They have to achieve it themselves. So Ivy comes along 5 years later and she is on her own in that playground.
Figure it out, Ivy.
Literally. And she was frustrated. And we did talk to her about, yes, it is frustrating, but why don't you try a different way? And we let her struggle. And then I remember this moment. She climbed up on the climbing frame by herself. And that expression on her face, the pride, the satisfaction, the self-esteem, I realized I could not give that to her.
Yeah.
She had to give it to herself. And every time I rushed in to save Violet from struggling, I denied her the opportunity to experience that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Love
I'm actually really proud of myself for this moment because there was a similar situation at a park recently. I was standing back and Isla all of a sudden was like, help, mommy, help. She was trying to go over like this bridge thingy and she got terrified. And I ran over and then I was like, hold on. And I just said, you can do it, Bubby. Just watch where your hands are going, watch where your feet are going. And she got to the other side by herself. I didn't touch her. And the look on her face was like, she's like, Mommy, I did it.
Oh, bless.
It was just the most beautiful thing. So that's I feel very proud of myself. But also like that's so interesting. And I love that lesson and I love that. And again, it's just like the tiniest little tweak of like, just don't touch. Just like
That's right. So the rule we have is only do for your child what they cannot do for themselves.
Yeah.
Unless you're running late in the morning and you don't have time for them to tie their own shoelaces or you don't feel like cleaning the spaghetti off the wall or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But wherever practical, if they can do it for themselves, let them. And I think if I'm being really honest about my own motivation with Violet, I was doing it for my own reasons because I wanted to feel like a good mum.
Good mum.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we can't build up our own self-worth by dipping into our children's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that hits so hard. I got the biggest chills just then. Far out, man. That's huge.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about in the book is around body, like naming body parts and safety. I found that part of the book really interesting.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of our pillars is body ownership, right?
Okay.
And a girl cannot own her body if she can't even name what they're called, the parts of her body are called.
Mm-hmm.
And our generation, when we were growing up with, front bottom and back bottom and down there, like there's so much shame.
And private parts.
Yeah,
Exactly.
private parts.
No, it's a clitoris.
Yes.
It's a penis. It's an anus. And the thing is, when I first started using those words, it was really hard for me to say them because I had a whole lifetime of shame. But if you name the body parts when they're young, your kid doesn't know you're embarrassed.
Yes.
And then when you get to the age when you say the penis goes in the vagina, you've said it so many times, you're not embarrassed and they're not embarrassed because kids don't come out feeling embarrassed, right?
No.
Yeah.
We teach them what to be embarrassed about. So if you are always open about talking about body parts and having conversations about puberty and the way bodies work, periods, then they're not going to be embarrassed. So you don't have to worry about the talk. But just on naming body parts, the research shows that pedophiles target kids who don't know the correct names of body parts. They are more likely to target those kids. And the hypothesis behind that is because they assume that the children have not had body safety conversations with parents, but also they can't tell their parents what's happened to them if they don't have the language. So not only is it about body ownership and empowerment, it's also about keeping our kids safe.
Yep.
But it's also your banking credits for when your child is older. Because with this whole world of social media and porn, your child is going to see it, right?
Yes.
You cannot keep them away from it. You want to be the first person they come to talk about it, not the last.
Yeah.
Not having that shame.
Yeah.
So really doing shame reduction work.
For sure. So I recommend putting puberty books on your bookshelves now. Put them next to your Maisie Mouse Wiggles books, right? Because it is just information.
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
that's what I love. That's what you said. Like, it's just facts. It's just information.
Yeah. There shouldn't be shame around it. There shouldn't be.
And that's the same with boys too. It is not good for a boy to not understand how the bodies of half the population work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't hide your tampons from your son.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting. I had, like, Maya and I, she's going through a phase right now. She's terrified of the bath all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
But before, it's so annoying. But before she was terrified of the bath, we always had baths together. And she comes and she points to my boobie. She goes, "What's that? What's that?" And I say, "That's my boobies. That's my breasts." I show her on her. I was like, "Those are your nipples. That's, And then she like points to my vagina and I tell her. And then she like pointed to my pubic hair and she's like, "Poo." And I was like, "No, that's my pubic hair." And I'm like trying, even she's 2 years old, almost 2 years old. And I'm like already naming the parts. And that's come from reading your book. I think I probably wouldn't have done that if I hadn't read your book. I probably would have been like, I don't know, maybe said like,
That's your private.
that's mummy's bits, or something like that. Not actually naming the anatomy, which, I really love that. It's just facts.
Yeah, and then when you can have those conversations, you can then slip in and no one's allowed to touch your vagina.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No one's allowed to see you naked.
Mm-hmm.
If you see someone naked on the iPad, just come and tell me.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to make such a big deal about it. It's you're opening the door to have that
Safety.
conversation.
Yeah. That's
Can we
huge.
go back to some more of the pillars?
Yes.
Because I think we've covered maybe 4 now.
Yeah, so we've done body confidence. We've done body ownership. I just want to say one more thing about body ownership, right?
Please. Say as many things as you need to. We are here for it.
Okay, you can edit it out if I go for too long, right?
No,
It's
my
fine.
gosh.
Body ownership seems like a really obvious thing, but it's actually really controversial because of the way we are raised. We actually, deep down as a society, do not believe that girls control their bodies. And your daughter cannot like herself if she doesn't feel like she has control over her body. And I'm going to talk about clothes and I'm going to talk about forced affection, okay?
Oh.
When we force our children to give affection when they don't want to, and that is the important part here, right? When they don't want to. If your kid wants to cuddle grandma, that's beautiful. But if they don't and you force them to, or if you set up affection as a transaction, uncle gave you a present, go and give him a hug, you are teaching your daughter that she does not own her body, that what somebody else wants her to do with her body, someone else's comfort, someone else not feeling embarrassed is more important than what she wants to do with her body.
What she feels comfortable with.
And people say, oh, that's ridiculous, that's just what we do in families. Yeah. But if you look at the research of, say, girls who send nude photos, teenage girls, 97% of those girls who send them don't want to send them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they send them?
Oh,
because they didn't know they could say no.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. I've talked about girls who are giving oral
that
sex.
hits.
I know,
That
it
hits
rings
really
so
hard.
true, doesn't it? Just like not wanting to make the other person feel bad, not wanting to make the situation uncomfortable.
I can just relate to it. Like I know when I have been in like long distance relationships and sent, photos across and been like, I don't actually want to do this, but like I want to please my boyfriend or I want to,
yeah,
I wanna
100%. Or it
impress, get some validation or some bullshit.
even in person, like someone wanting to kiss you and you're kind of like, I don't really like not that keen, or like, wanting to go further and not being able to say like no because it'll make things uncomfortable and awkward, like the people pleasing side of it. It's just so, it rings so true and it hits so hard, and it starts with that tiny little thing of like someone gave you a present, now go and give them something back because you have to. Like
Maya gets all the time, can I have kiss? Can I have kiss? Can I have kiss? Give me kisses. And I can see she doesn't want to.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is super interesting to me.
Look, it's so hard. I have been in that situation where someone has wanted to kiss Violet and I could see that she didn't want to and I said nothing because I was being a nice girl. I didn't want to cause a scene.
Yeah.
They weren't being predators. But the thing is, we think we're not picking a side when being nice, but we are.
Yeah.
So when I was being nice to that man, I was being not nice to my daughter.
Yeah.
Hard truth.
I know.
Yeah.
And I feel sick about that. And then it happened again and the same thing happened. And I was like, that is it. This can't happen a third time. Because if I want my daughter to be able to say no to unwanted sexual advances when she's a teenager, then I need to back her to say no to affection when she's 5.
Oh my God, it's making me so emotional. It's making me so emotional because that's what it's been like for me. Like you're such a people pleaser and not being able to say no, and like I'm terrified. But you know what? Like it rings so true. And like I'm terrified for Isla. I want to make sure that if she's ever in a situation where like she doesn't want to hug someone, she doesn't want to kiss someone, she doesn't want to, send a nude photo.
You have been in situations where you really didn't want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And the people pleaser in you
just
did it.
And I like convinced myself that it's like, no, it's fine. Like I was keen, like not at all.
Yep.
So it's a very, it hits very, very hard, and it's so important, and it's such a huge lesson that like I want to break that shit with me.
Yes.
Like that cannot happen to my daughter.
And so it starts as young as, our little two-year-olds being,
Yeah.
Can I have a kiss? Can I have a kiss? Oh, grandpa gave you a biscuit. Go give him a kiss. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, do you want them to do that with, he bought you a drink, give him a blowjob?
Yeah.
Because that's the same thing. It's the same lesson.
And so what about with, I suppose, in terms of manners and respect, can you say like, oh, you got given a present, say thank you?
Definitely. And so there are social conventions, right? And we want to teach our kids social skills. So instead of kisses, we do high fives.
Yeah, okay.
Give them a high five.
Love that.
Give them a fist bump. Say thank you.
Love that. Way more comfortable.
And so we've also had conversations with our family ahead of time saying, if our girls don't want to be affectionate, we are supporting that. So please don't ask them to do that.
Yeah.
And I've heard from so many grandparents. So Chris and I were on the front page of the Daily Mail being called the kissing police. And all these grandparents were saying, it breaks my heart that my granddaughter can't give me a kiss. And it's like, well, she can if she wants to.
Yeah.
But do you really want to extract a kiss from your grandchild when she doesn't want to kiss you? Like, this
really
isn't about
begs
you.
the question, like, whose needs are we putting first? Like,
For sure.
your needs are overriding your needs of feeling, I don't know, affirmation that your grandchild loves you is more important than, you know, your grandchild feeling comfortable and
safe.
And that's the lesson that the child learns.
Yeah.
But underlying all of that, the message that girls get that boys tend not to get is we have to earn love.
Yeah. Oh.
And that if we don't do what someone wants us to do with our bodies, we will not be loved. So this is why we need to actively attack that in our homes, that belief. And so we have a rule: if it's not permanent or if it's not harmful, she gets to decide.
Yeah.
And that is about affection. It's about what clothes she wears. It's about hair, earrings, makeup. But the other part of that is even if we don't agree. And that is really important because we want our girls to know that they can make a decision that you don't agree with and you'll still love them.
Yeah.
So when my daughter wears something, it goes, do you like it? And I'll say, if I don't, I'll say, well, not really, but it's not up to me. It's your decision. Or when she wanted to get her second ear piercing, you know, so she was old enough to look after it, so it wasn't permanent, wasn't harmful, so of course she could do it. And she asked me if I liked it. I was like, well, actually, I don't really, but they're not my ears, they're yours. So you decide that.
This is bringing up so much for me. I'm also getting really emotional.
Yeah.
Because for so long in my family dynamic, like I was like the gold star, you know, little superstar Dena. And then I went through all this stuff and I was overseas in America, and I just remember coming back to my parents, and just to like long story short, I came back as like this broken addict basically. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I wasn't the golden star perfect kid anymore for my parents, or, you know, at this point I was in my 20s, but I still felt like, okay, I'm not lovable. You know, I'm a broken addict who needs help, who needs to, you know, go to rehab. I've disappointed my parents so much and I'm not worthy of love. And I remember sitting in rehab, sitting with the psychiatrist, and he wrote on a big piece of paper this question for me: why am I not worthy of love exactly as I am right now? And he said, I want you to ask yourself this every day. And I was like, of course I'm not worthy of love right now. Look at me. I've like let everyone down. I'm a junkie. I'm, you know, all this, like I'm such a failure. And I just remember, and it's so painful, like to not, to feel like you can't make mistakes in life and still be loved is a really difficult thing. And I never want my daughter to experience that. Like I want her to be able to make as many mistakes as she needs to on this crazy adventure of being a human being and, you know, having the human experience, and know that I will love her no matter what she does. Like no matter if she ends up in prison, like I will love her no matter what mistakes she makes. And I'm sure my parents, you know, I'm speaking on their behalf, I'm sure they loved me very much, but I felt unlovable for the mistakes I'd made. And yeah, that just really hits home, this stuff. Yeah, I'm
Feeling like love is conditional.
love is conditional on being perfect, on being high achieving, gold star, good girls.
So that's the difference between a high achiever and a perfectionist. So a high achiever is I want to do well because I want to do well. A perfectionist is I want to do well so people will love me.
Yeah.
And we tackle that in our 7th pillar in the book, which is a girl who likes herself is herself, right? And this is probably the most important thing that any parent can do. It doesn't matter what mistakes you make, just get this right. What your child needs from you is what we all need. We need to be seen, accepted, and loved for who we are in this moment. We don't want to have to win a race pass a test, succeed in an audition to feel like we're enough, right? And it's easy to say, but for parents, it's actually hard to do because we all have an idea in our head of what sort of child we're going to have and what sort of family it's going to be. And you pop out this kid who doesn't care about what you'd planned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their own little being.
That's right. And so
soul.
we talk about the difference between stone parenting and seed parenting. Now, socially, our generation of parents have so much pressure on us to be stone parents. And we have this idea of what our child should be, the perfect idea. And because we're now so focused on external validation, everything's measured, everything's graded, everything is about achievement and what you get on tests. Kids are getting measured in kinder, and then we've got all the NAPLAN tests. Like everything is measured, right? And so what we're doing is we've got our chisel out and we're chiseling away at our child to create what we think is perfect. And it's absolutely done with love and the very best of intentions. But the thing is, if a child's going to like themselves, they have to be allowed to grow up into the best version of the person they choose to be, not the one you choose for them, no matter how well-intentioned you are. So what we need to try to be instead is seed parents. And that's the idea of our child is this beautiful, unique, precious seed. And we don't know how it's going to bloom. And we don't know when it's going to bloom, but that's not our job. Our job is to provide the nurturing, supporting environment and love that seed and that sapling when it blooms in its own way and its own time.
So beautiful.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So much wisdom. So
That
much
approach,
wisdom.
it also makes parenting so much easier. It just takes the pressure off. It's not our job to create this child.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's their job.
It's their job. One other big, sorry. did I
No,
cut
please
you off
go.
there?
No, go.
One other big sort of theme I'd love to just have a quick discussion about is social media. And we talk about this all the time, like how do we protect our girls on social media? I'm just like, we've got TikTok now with the 2-year-old. So I'm like, okay, where are we going to be when she's 14? Like what crazy Snapchat, TikTok version things are we going to have? And I know you have quite a controversial and interesting perspective on social media, which was your opinion on it was actually the first time I've ever heard anyone talk about it that way. So I'd love to share that with our audience.
Yeah, sure. So I know there is a lot of concern about social media. And I'm not saying that there's no problems with it. There are, right? But what really worries me about our focus on social media is we think it's the problem and that if we just get rid of social media, everything will be fine. Well, girls and women haven't liked themselves for generations.
Long before social media.
Exactly. My body image sucked and Mark Zuckerberg's parents hadn't had their first date yet,
And that's a screen grab. I love it. That's a snippet.
That's so
We
funny.
interviewed little girls who were, in prep in grade 1 who wanted to slice off rolls of fat on their stomachs.
God.
They're not looking at Instagram, okay?
Yeah.
So, social media amplifies problems. It does not create them. And so long as we're so focused on social media, we're not going to solve this problem, right? So we need to build a firm foundation of self-worth in our kids. And so that's what our book is about. Like, so much of the world we cannot protect our kids from. We can't even imagine what it's going to be like. So we need to arm them so they're ready for anything. But with social media, I am not in favor of the social media ban at all.
Okay.
Think about it when your kid drives a car. Do you toss them keys at 18 and say, go for it?
Hell no.
No, we teach them. Social media is really complicated. And I think that we should be teaching kids in a really safe environment about how it works. And I see it with my own daughter. I'll just give you one example that was quite funny. This isn't my daughter. This is a boy who, a story I know. You learn the rules for social media. And it's like every kid knows you don't take a photo of someone unless you ask first. And they also know you don't take a photo if they're nude. Well, this kid, he was at school in the change room and the boy was in his undies, so he wasn't nude, and he asked him if he could take a photo of him. So he did. And then he sent it round and got in big trouble. But he followed the rules, right?
Yeah.
So this just goes to show there's so much nuance
Yes.
that our kids need to learn about how to use social media. The other thing, which is not often talked about, is that when you look at the research, the kids who are not on social media have worse mental health than the kids
I found
who
that
are
fascinating.
on social
Wild,
media.
isn't it?
I found that so fascinating.
Well, social media is their playground.
Yeah.
It's how they're communicating. So if you remove your child from their peer group, they are going to suffer.
They're going to get left out. They're not going to be invited to things.
For sure.
Yeah, wow.
And so it's about, so I didn't love the idea of giving my daughter Snapchat.
No.
Yeah.
But she came to me and said, Mum, everyone else is talking on it. I'm missing out. And the research is very clear about social isolation and mental health.
Yes.
Like that is much stronger than the link between social media and mental health.
Yes.
Which is why going all the way back, coming full circle to talking about body parts, open communication, discuss everything without shame, without punishment, so that our kids will come to us.
Yeah. And does that as well, I kind of I want to circle back to the like giving your kids space to like grow the confidence. I've heard you mention before about like, going to the grocery store and like letting your child go into the grocery store, get it. I'm so afraid of not having eyes on my kid. I mean, I was in a car park the other day and I saw this guy just standing there. There was no one else around and he just whipped out his genitals as I was sitting in my car. And like
so fucked.
Terrified that my daughter will experience something like that in a street, like walking down the street. Like how do you let them go?
How do we not
Like
helicopter parent?
Yeah.
Oh, it is so hard. And I have exactly the same anxiety as every other parent. And I really think, you know how our generation, we get so much shit for being helicopter parents, right? But the issue is we're there, right? So every time we see our kids, we have to make a decision. Do I intervene? Do I stand back?
Yeah.
My parents weren't there.
Yeah.
I was told play in the street, come back
you
when
go.
the street lights came on, right?
Yeah.
And
Same.
so they didn't have to make those decisions, right? But we do need to be brave. We also need to keep things in perspective. The reality is your child statistically is a lot more at risk in your own home than they are in Coles.
Statistically?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the most dangerous, like in terms of being sexually abused,
Yeah. God, yeah.
it's the adult they know, not the person at the checkout,
Yeah.
right? But we hear all these stories, right? So we get fearful and then we overprotect our kids. And so preparation for high school starts now. Because when you look at the kids who really struggle at high school with really severe anxiety, they are not worried about the work. They're worried about life. They're worried about, I don't know how to go to my locker and I don't know what book to get out and I don't know how to get to my classroom and I don't know how to talk to all those teachers.
Yeah, my gosh.
So building that independence.
Exactly. So something to do right now. As soon as your kid's in childcare or kinder, they carry their own bag.
All right, Maya.
They get them to be responsible for their own belongings.
Yeah.
And if it's heavy, it's like,
I was about to say the bag's like double the size of her.
so carry it part way.
Okay.
Or build up her fitness. So when my daughter was 4, she was on her scooter and it was 1.5 kilometers to kinder. And she just got there. You know, like kids in developing countries are carrying water for 8 hours. You know, our kids can carry their bags.
Yeah.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
And they are responsible for unpacking their bags. I mean, of course, you need to get involved because you don't want to find the rotten banana 3 weeks later or whatever.
Yeah.
So they need to be.
But training starts now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another really important one is try not to speak for them. So we interviewed a principal who does the intake interviews for a primary school and he's been doing it for 20 years. And so these kids are 4, right? Because it's the year before they start school. He does the interview and he says he can tell in that interview how well that child is going to do socially and academically at school. And he can tell by whether or not the parents allow the child to speak for themselves. And they don't have to say anything, you know, profound, They just have to be allowed to speak, because when you allow your child to speak, first of all, you're telling them that you're interested in what they can say, that you believe in them, and they're getting practice. So, for example, if they're asked, what's your favourite thing at kinder? And the kid says nothing, rather than jumping in and answering, you say to your kid, well, remember what you did yesterday? We brought it home and put it on the fridge. And the kid will say, painting. It's like, yeah. So that's all you need to do.
Oh, good.
But it's encouraging them to speak for themselves. In cafes, it's really motivating. If you don't order, you don't get.
That's a good one. Right.
So interesting.
Or, when my children would go into a birthday party, it would like, okay, so what's your friend's mum's name? And what are you going to say when you get in there? And what are you going to say when you leave? Like we role play it beforehand.
Practicing.
It's another one that I'm kind of like proud about that I get.
I was about to say, you do
things. Yeah.
You do that with Isla. I noticed that on the weekend.
Yeah.
You very much encourage her communication.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, another little tick that feels good.
I want to get your hot takes on a few things.
Yeah.
Screen time.
Okay. As adults, we really struggle to manage our own screen time. So it is too much to expect a child to do it. They need our help, right? But just some some caveats around screen time. One is it's all about how you get them off. So people say, the screens are so bad, they come off and they're so angry, right? And so they blame the screen for their child being angry. Often what's happening is we are not respecting what our child is doing on the screen. Imagine your child is in the middle of a basketball game and they're about to shoot a goal and you walk onto the court and go, okay, buddy, basketball time's over, the way we go screen time's over, and we pull them off, right? Or they're eating ice cream and you go, ice cream time's over, I'm taking that away now.
Yeah.
Your kid's going to get angry at you, right?
Yeah.
Their world, for us, it's just pixels. But for them, it's play. They're creating something. They're absorbed in something. Often they're doing it with a friend, so someone else is relying on them. So if you respect what they're doing on the screen, then you're going to have less problems getting them off. So you say, you're going to have to get off in 10 minutes. Find a time now to end the game.
Great. Yeah.
The other thing is try not to use taking away screens as a punishment.
Okay.
Because then they're going to stop telling you stuff. If they see porn on the screen and they know that you could take their screen off them, they're not going to tell you they saw it.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their device.
Exactly. So you need to take the emotion out of it. But one really hard rule that I do have is no screens at bedtime.
Okay.
So my daughter is 11. Her phone, so her iPad, so she's on a group chat with all her little grade 5 buddies. It goes off all night.
Yeah.
There are kids messaging each other at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow. What in the world?
And so what we hear from parents is, my child will be really upset with me if I take their phone off them. I was like, let them be upset with you.
I reckon.
Because one, it is so important for our children's mental health and academic performance and friendship and overall well-being to get enough sleep. If they are messaging in the night, they are not getting enough sleep.
No.
Oh my God. I actually mentor a 14-year-old girl, and I was been spending a lot of time with her family lately. And I spoke to her and she said she was up till like midnight or 2 a.m. texting her friends.
Yep.
And in my head, I was like,
Why are you all awake?
what about school?
Yeah.
Like what is going on?
But it's too much for them to monitor that themselves.
Yes.
They need us to do it for them.
So would you say no screens in the bedroom a lot? I've always thought, okay, when we do get an iPad or when Maya does have screen time, I want it to be in the lounge room as a family in a public forum where I can hear and monitor what's going on. So like a no screens in the bedroom policy.
Yeah, until they're old enough.
Yes. And what age do you think that is?
Well, I mean, my daughter, so she's almost 16. Her screen's in the bedroom, but the door's open.
Okay.
And there have been plenty of times when I've overheard something and I've said, Violet, come here, and then we'll have a little chat about why that's not a good idea, and then she'll go back and fix it.
Amazing. But it's not confiscated. It's just a learning. It's a
Yeah,
teaching.
Again, let's go back to the car analogy. If you're teaching your child to drive a car and they make a mistake with their hook turn, do you confiscate the car?
No.
Yeah.
Do you punish them?
No.
No, you just help them to do better next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about learning. Every mistake, every time someone, like failure is learning. This is something that I didn't necessarily learn growing up, but I learnt in acting classes, and I was like, this is profound, is that if I fail, it is not the end of the world. I am not a loser, in quotation marks. I am not less than. It is an opportunity to learn. This is what I teach in my acting classes for my students as well, is that it's your opportunity to just make a different choice next time.
Absolutely.
It's such a big thing and something that it was such a huge lesson for me to learn. I remember just like this light bulb going off and thinking like, whoa, like if I fail, I'm not going to like be.
The world's not going to fall apart.
The world's not going to fall apart. I'm not less than. That's huge. And that's really, and I think that's so important with all the things that we're teaching our children and our girls and our boys. The failure and making the wrong choice isn't world ending.
You're not going to get in trouble for it. That's the part I really like. Like things aren't going to get confiscated. You're not going to be in trouble. It's a learning.
We never punish our kids. We discipline.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the original definition of discipline, universities have disciplines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Olympics have disciplines. It's about learning.
Skills and learning.
So, for example, timeout, like that is presented as the enlightened way to discipline or punish a child.
Yeah.
If your child is losing it or behaves badly and you stick them in the corner, do you think they are reflecting on their behavior and making a different choice next time?
Absolutely not. I never did.
They are thinking one of two things. One, I hate mum.
Yep.
Or worse, I hate me.
Yeah. Shame.
And nothing good grows from shame.
No.
Every mistake, like you said, is an opportunity to learn to do better next time.
Yep.
And we need our kids to actually experience failure. Because if our children can't tolerate the feeling of failure, and this is particularly the true for perfectionists and boys, right? Then they can't tolerate the feeling of failure, which means they will never reach their potential. Mm-hmm. We talk about a crisis of boys in learning. I believe part of that is they can't tolerate the feelings that are required to succeed, because in order to succeed, you have to get feedback that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And our kids need to know that they can feel it and be okay.
Yeah.
I think we're quite good at that, being actors.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so interesting because you say like boys in particular, and I've found that with the men and boys in my life that rings so incredibly true.
Yeah, part of the way we raise boys, our definition of masculinity is that you never make a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you're not allowed to show vulnerability.
You hold it together and you be a man.
Yeah. And it just it doesn't make them strong, it makes them brittle.
Yeah.
Oh, Kasey, you're just amazing. Your wisdom, your insight. We could talk to you for hours and hours.
Yeah.
I highly recommend every girl mom, but also boy mom, because you've written Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves. Please check out Kasey's books. I actually listened to it as an audiobook, and it was so beautiful because it's your voice.
Yes, it is.
It was really great to listen to. And I learned so much from it. And I really hope our listeners take something from this as well.
Very much
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything, before we wrap up, is there anything that any last thoughts?
Something we didn't touch on.
Okay.
And that's friendships and girls. I just want to point out friendship is a skill.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a mix of magic and serendipity. There's not just kids who are good at it and kids who aren't. It's a skill. And if we teach our girls and our boys friendship skills, they're going to have a much easier time at school
I love
and
that.
in life.
So good.
I love that. It took me a long time to learn that. Like, that friendship is something that takes work and effort and communication and integrity. It's not just like, people like me.
Yeah.
Or even just how to pick a friend who's good for you.
Yes.
Friendship is a choice.
Yeah.
And we need to support our children and ourselves to choose wisely.
Thank you so much,
beautiful.
Kasey. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, everything that you
So
said
many
today,
life lessons.
so many life lessons and so many light bulb moments. And I hope that our listeners, and I'm absolutely sure that they did, have many light bulb moments. And even if, you're not parents, like for me, reading a book like this it changes things for myself as well. It changes the way that I think. As you said, we can change things, and our brains aren't a stone. Like they can be malleable in the way that we think about ourselves. So for me, reading that book was a huge change in myself and the way that I want to do things moving forward. So even if you're not a parent, I think it's a very important read. And yeah, I mean, same thing with the Goodbye, Good Girl, Hello Me. I think
that's actually a memoir. So that is my journey of how I applied the lessons I learned in researching raising girls who like themselves to myself.
Wow, later in life.
My story of, as an adult woman, reparenting myself to live a more empowered life, because so many of the lessons we are taught as girls are disempowering.
Mm-hmm. I haven't read that one yet, so that's next on the list. I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Yeah.
I think I'm your biggest fan. So
I also think Dena's genuine. I'm a big fan, but Dena, one of the first books that she told me, about
when we started the podcast, I was
like, you
Kasey
have
Edwards.
to read this book.
That is so flattering. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think this is world-changing work. I think what you do is not just life-changing. I think it can change the world.
Absolutely.
I think the research you and your husband have done is just so remarkable and so helpful and so practical. Like, that's what I really like. It's like we are so bombarded with information as parents in this day and age. And what I found about your information was it was really practical. It was matter of fact. It was sort of black and white in a way, like this is the facts and this is how we do it. And I was like, I can do this. I'm not overwhelmed by this. And if I just stand in my truth, like this is really actually great for me to do. And I can pass it on to my in-laws and my parents and my partner, and we can all just do a better job.
Yeah, that's that's a huge point. Actually, it is. It's so easy to think like, oh, I can make those changes. And it's not overwhelming to think like, oh gosh, and now I've got to implement that and I've got to say this. And it's very simple.
Very simple. Thank you so much for joining us on Life Academy and giving us so many life lessons today. Before we wrap up, we do like to ask our guests, and we also do for ourselves, a little bit of homework or recommendations. Is there anything you are reading, using, watching, loving, anything you would recommend to our listeners?
Well, if I can actually reference myself.
Please do.
Something that I'm focusing on at the moment, and I've written about in my new book, Goodbye, Good Girl, Hello Me, is the importance of prioritizing friendship. And I say that as I look at you two who have the most beautiful friendship. And friendship, it's a skill, but it also has to be a priority. And often for women, we are taught that we need to do all the other things first, and friendship is something that fits into the cracks of our lives. We need to flip that. Friendship is one of the most important things. And so for anyone listening, my homework is to phone that friend that you have been meaning to call for a month or 6 months and prioritize that life-affirming relationship.
Oh, I love that.
Such good homework. And the connection is the antidote to depression and to isolation. And I do think we just forget that it takes work and it takes effort.
And that we're worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Fantastic. Leash, what's yours?
Fabulous. Well, mine is honestly, this is kind of like very far away from today's episode, but I was thinking on my way in that when I did my skincare routine this morning, I was like,
I'm going to love this.
I feel so fresh. Esme Skin Minerals. I've been using it for probably a little over a year now, and it's just so it's very clean, and my skin's quite reactive, and I have eczema as well. So I've found that it's worked really well. When I woke up this morning and I had a little bit of dry skin eczema just on my eyelid here, and I was like, oh gosh, is it going to sting putting it on? And I put it on and I was like, oh no, not a tiny little bit of stinging, but I genuinely think so. The Esme Skin Minerals has very much, I'm super impressed that it didn't actually sting my face, and that and it made my skin feel really nice this morning after.
So it's skincare?
Skincare.
Okay,
yes.
I've got to check it out.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's really lovely.
Skin girly over here. It's got to check
Oh,
it.
yes,
I don't know about it.
You've never heard of it?
No.
I'm actually shocked by that.
How do I spell this?
ESMI.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes. I'll also check it out.
Yeah.
I am going to stay on the same wagon as you. We've been getting so many comments about our skin on this podcast.
The glowing.
There's like equal amounts of comments about, are you guys going to start a skincare line?
We need to do this.
I think I've literally read over 100 comments about what's your skincare routine.
Yeah.
But I want to shout out, I love using, and this is not sponsored, the Omnilux LED light mask.
Have you seen? Get one. I've seen you wear it, Dena.
Yeah,
yes.
I wear my mask. So I do 10 to 20 minutes every day of my LED light mask. And I honestly have seen beautiful benefits in my skin. So for those asking what the skincare secret is, I think it could be, well, genetics for one, and two, I think the Omnilux LED mask. So I'll put it in the show notes for you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say before that, I love that before we started this podcast, I was actually saying to you like, oh, I think I want to try Botox soon. And then since all of these episodes have come out and everyone's commenting on our great skin, I'm like, maybe I don't want to get Botox at the moment. Like,
yeah,
maybe
that's
I'll
what
just
I
leave
was
that
saying.
a little bit longer.
You'd be like, look at my lines. I'm like, what lines? And every comment is like, their skin.
So yeah, no, it's built my confidence back up with my skin. So
There we go.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, we love you guys. Kasey, we're so grateful for your time. Thank you so
much. That was brilliant.
So brilliant. And we will see you guys next week.
I think the bell's going to ring.
Oh, ding, ding. Bye.